Osam v'es Pinchas. So this is verse 6. It's still in chapter 31, verse 6. Moses sent them. V'yishlach otam. Moshe. Who did he send to war? 1,000 from each tribe for the army. Elif lamate l'tzava. Them and Pinchas. This is where we come in. Osam v'es Pinchas. So we just got done saying that Moses sent 1,000 from each tribe to the army, comma, like, them and Pinchas. Osam v'es Pinchas, ben Elazar Kohen. Who is Pinchas? We already know he's son of Elazar the Kohen. Litzava, to the army. And they took with them, the ark and all the different sacred vessels, and the blowing of the shofar, because that's what you do when you go to war. So, what is this? We just got why did it just say that God sent the 1,000 from each tribe and Pinchas? It described who's coming, and it's them and Pinchas. So he says, Perish Rashi, look at Rashi. What does Rashi say? Shahalak linkom nikmas Yosef avi imo. Okay, so who was Pinchas' mother? Who was Eliezer's wife? So Rashi in Shmos in Exodus 6:25 explains that it's Putiel. That's the verse. It says that Eliezer took the daughter of Putiel. It's either Yisro, which is easy to understand, or it could be Yosef. It could be referring to Yosef, which is also, it's a little bit harder to understand. But imagine that Pinchas, his great-grandpappy, right, is Yosef. So, even though he comes from, right, Levi. But on his mother's side, he could be from Yosef. So, if he's taking vengeance, for what? For something that happened to Yosef. What happened to Yosef in the Midianites? I know it's a little confusing during the sale of Yosef, because it looks like the Ishmaelites were the ones that were solely involved. If you look through the Parsha, you'll see clearly that the Midianites were very much involved in the sale of Yosef, bringing him down to Egypt. Down to Egypt is probably one of the main points, because this is part of the vengeance that Pinchas is going to take. But let's see what the explanation of Rashi. Shavoya Moshe Batuach. In other words, we see that he had every right, for some reason, which we'll explain a little bit further, to take vengeance on the Midianites, that Moses was so assured, Shlo Yechas Aleim, Lo Yishayir Lehem Shorish Vanach, that he knew that this vengeance, this almost a personal vendetta, would be so strong that he wouldn't have any pity on them, and he wouldn't allow to remain any one of these Midianites from its root to its branch. We realize whenever we want to get rid of something evil, or something that has disease, it's not enough just to get rid of the branches. You really want to uproot it, you got to get to the root. So Moses was confident, he was batuach, he was assured, he felt safe that if he sent Pinchas, that this problem would be taken care of. See, if it wasn't for this, we know already that Pinchas hated them. He had some kind of personal vendetta anyway against the Midianites because of the sale of Yosef, which is on his mother's side, he came from Yosef. Makom miyuchad l'znus. And what about Egypt? Remember, it says that basically it was the Midians that were the final blow in this transaction of the sale of Yosef that took him to Egypt, because that's a makam of znus. This is like where you find the most promiscuous people in Egypt. And by the way, you should know that the whole Arab world knows this. Okay. V'ata achazu hamidyanim ma'isa voseim biyadam lahakshir es Yisrael b'znus. So not only was it back then the Midianites brought Yosef down to Egypt, which is symbolic of bringing him to the lowest parts of the world, but now, even now, generations later, the Midianites were still holding on to the actions of their fathers by lahakshil, to bring down. Remember, they were very much involved in this whole episode in the end of Parshas Balak, the beginning of Pinchas, with the downfall of the Jewish people's involvement in avodah zarah and in znus, sexual promiscuity. Umasha Perush, Rashi also mentions Lefisha Hipchil b'mitzvah hu yigmor, like another reason. Since he was the one who killed Cosby and Zimri, right? Cosby, which was the princess of the Midianites. So since he was involved in the beginning of this mitzvah of wiping them out on account of the downfall in his news, so he should finish the job, right? Isn't this a good idea? Whoever starts should also finish. Hainu simani mosolo, and this was actually like the signs that either Moses understood. That's why he sent in Pinchas. Ka'asher hachilota lahapilotam, just like he started. He was the beginning of bringing them down. Ki hipilet Cosby bas melech. Remember, he's the one who took out Cosby, the daughter of the king of Midian. Kach naful, or one of the princes. Kach naful yiplu kulam lefanecha. So too, he knew that basically the rest would come to fall like dominoes, because of this concept of if you start something, you certainly have think about this. It's like the word mitzvah means to connect. And if you're involved in a mitzvah, but you haven't finished it yet, but you began the act of trying to come close, don't you think God wants you to come close? That's what God desires. So of course, if you start the mitzvah, you get this extra oomph. Hashem gives you the extra power, or you call it a ruach of Hashem, helps in finishing the mitzvah. So this is what Moses knew, to get Pinchas involved. Since he was originally involved in taking out Cosby, there would be this added help from heaven. And without any doubt, he knew that there would be this extra strength and courage coming from within Pinchas also, more than Eleazar. Eleazar was the high priest. So if Hillel was the high priest, maybe he should have gone. But he took Pinchas to be the leader in the war, or the general, because they already fell in front of him, meaning he already took out Cosby, so he was assured that they would also be delivered, that same word, v'nimsaru, into his hands. V'chein tchilas mitzvah siyulo lahavia inyan lidei gamar mitzvah. This is kind of like the idea I mentioned before. So too, when you start a mitzvah, there's in essence, an assistance from Hashem to bring you to the idea towards closer to finishing the mitzvah, which is completing that union. Mitzvah is real communion with Hashem. Through doing a mitzvah, you have this intimacy with God. Ki'im mitzvah goreris mitzvah. You know what? This is another fascinating concept. Not only are you talking about within the mitzvah of finishing it, but also when you do one mitzvah, it says, we understand in Pirkei Avot, it says that one mitzvah drags or brings about another mitzvah. And the secret, I'll tell you what the secret is, that all the mitzvahs, every one of the mitzvahs, have inclusive in them all other 613 mitzvahs. So when you start one, you're starting them all. It's like the inertia is beginning, and it's going to carry you through, and it's going to bring you more opportunities to finish all those other mitzvahs that you started. So if you do one mitzvah, it's not a small thing in the least. It's like the most amazing thing. You do one mitzvah, you're on a, I don't know what scale, but on a molecular scale, a quantum scale. On a quantum scale, you are entering into the whole universe of mitzvahs. Ki mitzvah, gorer mitzvah, kal v'chomer, shechelech mimeno yigror kulo. So since we said that one mitzvah brings on another mitzvah, how much more so even a portion of that mitzvah brings on the entire mitzvah. Well, Moshe lo rotzu lelech. Now Moses didn't want to go to war. He himself didn't want to be involved in being the general or the sagan or even the second guy. Basically, if he took a leadership position, that would be dangerous. Why? Where did he grow up? Okay, we know he grew up in the palace of Pharaoh, but after he left Egypt, a majority of his, let's say, younger years were in Midian. So what do we call that? His formative years. So he kind of owed them a great deal, and he had a lot of, I don't know if it had to be respect on some level, but v'hayirei, he had some fear. What was this fear? She'im anshe milchama yidrashlu be'ezeh davar, that as he being the leader, if the people that were following him into war were either negligent or mismanaged the war in any way, you know who's going to blame? They're all going to blame Moses, and you know why? Yitlu hachisra Moshe. Certainly Moses would be at fault, but they would think that it was personal. V'yomer shayachas al hamakom mashin is God mushama. They would think that Moses had some kind of pity, right? Some kind of an emotional response when it comes to war, fighting the people that you owe a certain amount of gratitude for saving your life and helping you being brought up. Umasha Namar, you know what it says? Elif lamate, right? It says, now think about this. We're still in verse 6, which we read. 1,000 from each tribe for the army. Elif lamate. So it doesn't say elif mimate. It says 1,000 from each tribe, but limate, 1,000 to each tribe, right? It could have said 1,000 from each tribe. Let's see where he goes with this. Elif lamate. So says the Meforshim, Amram Meforshim, Kishneim Esrei Elif Hu Chelek Hamishim Min Shishim Rabo. Since the 12,000 is considered 1/50th of 600,000, okay, this is simple math. Lechach heviu hashlal echad echuz min chamishim. If you look further in verse 31, chapter 31, verse 30, 31, verse 30, what does it say? It says, and from the half, no, they divided up the shlal. The shlal is the spoils of war. They divided up the half. And half of the children of Israel, you shall take one drawn from 50, from the people, from the cattle, from the donkeys, from the flock, and from the animals, and you shall give them to the Levites, the guardians of the charge of the tabernacle of Hashem. So there's a portion we're going to call truma. It's basically the gifts that we give to the priesthood. So already it's mentioned here that there were 12,000, right? Because you have 1,000 from each tribe. That means there's 12 tribes, 12,000 fighters. 12,000 fighters out of 600,000 is exactly 1/50th. And later on we see that they're going to give out of the shlal, their own shlal, 1/50th towards the Levites. Kishur stam truma benonis, and this is the amount that if you ask, like when there's places where there are no measurements, that you should give at least, this is at least a healthy amount of 2%. But the truth is, it says twice, elif lamate, elif lamate. So in other words, maybe in chapter in Dalet. If you look in Dalet, in the 4th verse in Lamed Aleph in 31, it says 1,000 from each tribe, 1,000 from each tribe. For all the tribes of Israel you shall send to the army. So why does it say elif limate, elif limate? Even though we were looking in verse 6, where it says elif limate once. But upstairs in 4 it says elif limate, elif limate. So Rashi says over here, L'kol Mattos Yisrael, that L'rabo Shevet Levi. This comes to include Shevet Levi, which really means 13,000. Okay? So it says it's brought down in the Tanchuma Shlekach Shnei Alafim Mikol Shevet, that they actually took 2,000 from each tribe. Umashalo Nemar Alafim Lamate. But the fact that it doesn't say Alafim means 2,000, right? It didn't say Alafim Lamate. It says Elif Lamate, Elif Lamate. It's really weird. Why didn't it just say 2,000 from each tribe? Lefi Sharak Elif Lamate Hakula Milchama. Because the truth is what? That only 1,000 went to actual war of each tribe. So what did the other 1,000 do? Any guesses? Ve'elav yashvu alav keli. It says the other 1,000, they sat with, I guess, the bags and the armaments, filling the sandbags or packing the parachutes, making lunch and dinner and breakfast. Also, kelim could also be understood as we understand in general. Anytime we talk about the Jewish people's keli for war, Klei Zayin is the Chumash. The Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, is actually not 5 books at all, but it's 7 books. Because Bamidbar, the book of Bamidbar, is actually divided into 3 books, where we have those inverted upside down nuns, where it says when you go out to war, right, the Aaron would proceed. So that 2 verses is surrounded by these upside down inverted nuns. So we know that really Klei Zayin, which is armaments, is Klei Zayin, is the kelim of the Jewish people. It's the weapons of war. Ubein hakol arbaim v'esher elef. But if you're looking at it like this, you have now 1,000 from each tribe going out to war, and the other 1,000 from each tribe staying behind and either learning Torah, praying, or cooking. So you have 14,000. Sorry, you have 24,000. 12 and 12 is 24,000. Linkom mehem masha hipilu arba ve'eser elef misrael. So you have actually 24,000 going to war in parallel to the numbers of the 24,000 that fell in the plague of the last few parshas, where we talked about the downfall of the Jewish people and their involvement with Baal Peor and the women of Midian. Umash nemar elef lamateh. And from what it says, elef, 1,000 to each tribe, meaning from each tribe, but it doesn't say from each tribe, it says 1,000 to each tribe. Lo nemar elef mimate, and it doesn't say with the mem from. Why? Lefi shegam schut hamate halach imahem lemilchama. Because it's also on account of the merit of the tribe, that's Levi, that went with them to war. And it's not just Levi, it's also the other people. Elef haya seruf lamata atzma. That extra 1,000 was saruf. Saruf means like melted in together, welded. They were included in that mata themselves, meaning they were really meshed in. Ki skutam misayatam, because of their skut, because of their merit, from their help. In other words, even though we said later in 4, elef lamata, but later on we only say it once, also helps us understand. See, those 24,000, that extra 12,000 that was helping, that was included in 24,000, was doing just as much for the war effort as the ones that went out to war. If you're doing we don't call it the front lines, I think they call it the back lines of the war. Maybe there's a better word. You would think that just the heroes, just the guys coming back with the booty are the heroes. But how did they get there? How did they win? On whose account? From who's all the people in the background, right? All the people that were not just giving them moral support, but physical support as well. And that's why they gave from the spoils of war to the entire congregation. It wasn't just the heroes of war who came back and got to keep the spoils of war. Any questions or clarifications or?